particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live Safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
The croc is still holding another one there. It's holding from the hindquarters. I would really want. The wildebeest cross, is it trying? The croc is holding the tail. It's holding tight. Oh no. Goodness me. Lucky, lucky wildebeest. You have another day to live.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Delivering 6 hours of HD wildlife content live every day is no small feat. It's a massive team effort and we all rely on one another. Cam ops have a bit of work to do in the morning. Up nice and early, get all the checks out of the way and make sure we're ready to go live. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve again. We're sitting here on the high of a quarantine, looking at the Impalas. They're doing all their best to feed, but also it's all about, looks like they all spend the night over here, and this is where it was all safety for them to be able to graze. And with this beautiful cloudy that is taking places. And welcome aboard to your very own live safari through the African bush. Good morning everybody again. We're sitting here at quarantine now looking at the Impalas, and all they do, it looks like they're all taking it easy. And then of course the reason I'm saying that is sometimes when they're not happy, you would see their reaction. They'll be running around that there's something maybe has been disturbed them the whole night. And my name is Andrew. This morning I have Mpo on camera. So we started to come to start the drive right here, where it is indeed animal as Impalas. They're all scattered all over. And then there's been no sign of cat communication. So this is where we're going to begin, search around if we can find any cats at this morning. It's probably a little cloudy. The temperature of today is 21 degrees Celsius, 70 Fahrenheit. And remember, we're coming to you live, so you can talk to us. And on hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, also at FC on YouTube channels. If you are under the age of 18, you can pop us in the emails on kidsquestions@wildearth.com. But also, those of you having been part of the show, then you're welcome to go register on WildEarth website. Head over to the live safari page and you can submit your question there. We're taking them and answering them for you live from right here. So he's saying it's always great to see Impalas grooming each other, and of course it is so important so early to see Impalas, especially there where you see them grooming each other. This is the first things of the morning before they get more of active, so they can early groom one another, clean each other, and mainly that's why it applies a very important idea for such animal to be in a group, that they were able to help each other or look out, groom one another, play together, chase around each other. many of these Impalas that we're looking at right now, are all Impalas. They would be already having their baby, already grown up slightly. Some of them will survive, even their mother died, because they've also already been raised bigger in size since they were born last November, December there. So they're already eating grasses. If anything happened to their parents, not make it in their life, and they were able to survive still. Easy young one. So I'm gonna go bumble about, search if I could find any of cats, and let's take a look at the weather.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the DamCam feed. Of course, my name is Lauren, and I am the one operating the camera today. Probably not very well, but I shall do my very, very best. I haven't found anything so far, so you'll have to bear with me, but I shall see what I can find. And it's probably going to be very quiet on the DamCam, I would imagine, and therefore I may actually get a chance to go through the riddle with you. I have tried 2 days in a row and failed, so that's exactly what we're going to do today. Now, there was rain last night. I was not aware of it, of course. I was sound asleep, but it definitely did rain. So everything's still a little bit overcast and still a bit wet on the ground. So that's still more rainfall that we're receiving here in the low veld. And of course, as you can see, the dams are just unbelievably full. They cannot be any fuller. And it's really these sort of dry days that we have been having, the scorching hot days like yesterday and the day before, that are really needed now in order to dry out the ground. There's some roads that are still closed, there are some roads that are still so soggy, and we really need that sun to sort of start evaporating the water. Hippos, where are you? But please do talk to us, especially me. I am an FC, I've got a cup of coffee, I'm not going to lie, but please do talk to us. Send in all your wonderful questions and a comment or two, or even a joke if you feel like it. Oh, look at that lovely golden light. That's the golden light that we all love so much. Beautiful. Okay, everyone, I'm going to sit with my coffee, enjoy, see what I can find on the DamCam, and we're going to send you guys across to Kyle to say good morning.
Dumela! Tswalu. Good morning and welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. We are just enjoying the early morning sounds and watching these two lovely springbok do their thing. It's two ladies busy grazing and grooming and obviously getting their feed in for the morning. It's always lovely watching antelope early morning like this, especially with that rising sun. The light is really starting to change things. So a very warm welcome. Good morning. My name is Kyle and behind camera is BK. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful Saturday morning. And what a fantastic morning we have. The sun is just about to start rising over the Coronaburg range and we have animals moving around us. So it cannot get better than this. We are traveling south slowly and we are just taking things easy. We are taking a look for any tracks that might have been left by any culprits last night. But coming across antelope like this, it's really important to appreciate them because they are such an important part of the system. And antelope are commonly just overlooked, but I love sitting and watching an antelope. They are always busy. And these ladies are doing their thing. The one's giving us a stare down. PK, can you just go to the right there? The one on the right-hand side is just busy grooming itself. It's behind the tree, making it a little hard to see. But what it was doing there is basically combing through its hair, through its fur, and would have been using its bottom teeth to do that. Obviously a very important function that they provide. Rio asks, Springbok the first animals to wake up on Tswalu? Yeah, they get going fairly early. These antelope would have started grazing even under the cover of darkness this morning. So they'll definitely be on the move early morning, and you want to do that. So antelope need to get in feed in the early part of the morning. So what they'll do is they'll consume either by browsing or grazing, depending on the species of antelope. And what they're doing now is they are filling up the first chamber within their stomach. So feeding like this early morning is very important because first and foremost it's nice and cool. So you don't have to waste any valuable resources by sweating or trying to keep cool. And then as well as there's still moisture content on the plants as well. So there is some advantage of doing this early morning feeding bout. And then that midday period you want to be relaxing. But these are one of the very first antelope that you'd mentioned there that would be moving around early morning. Well, we're going to enjoy these Springbok for a little while, but let's send you over to Fred.
Good morning and welcome to andBeyond Ngala. We are looking at two tree squirrels that are busy grooming each other at the moment. You can see that one at the bottom is actually really enjoying it. Every now and then it looks like its eyes are just closing. It's so nice. Now we were quite fortunate to find these ones because normally it's not that easy to get a view of them. Luckily they were some distance off the road. And what they'll often do if you try and get a view of them close to a tree, they'll circle around, keeping the tree between you and any potential, or them and any potential threat. And in this case, often it is a vehicle. But for us now, as you can see, they're quite high up there. And it might be that they've been staying in one of the cavities inside this tree. So they'll normally be staying in holes within tree stumps and in trees. Well, my name is Fred, and behind the camera we've got Owen. And our plan for this morning was actually to head towards the river to see if we can't have any luck with those lines, but it actually worked out pretty well on the way there. We found these little squirrels, so we really wanted to show them to you. It looks like they are still there. There they are. Yep, they're still the same too. Now this sort of grooming for them is actually quite important. Because it also helps dislodge little parasites. And you can imagine, on a small little body like that, they can't really afford to lose any blood from having too many parasites. So it really does help them. But there's a second benefit as well. While they're doing all this grooming, the scent of the different members of the family group are transferred onto each other. And that's actually how the family groups recognize one another, is from the scent. Either from urine deposits, and they might even sometimes drag their anal glands over each other as a way to scent mark. And so often you'll find that if another squirrels come close by, they'll know that this one is an intruder by its scent. And that's also when the little group sleeps together inside a tree hole, the scent is also transferred in the same way. These little guys have got to be very careful because there's quite a few things that want to catch them. I've actually seen Marshall eagle and Wahlberg's eagle catch them. So Tammy is asking if these squirrels only feed on nuts. So here, they actually have got a wide variety of food. They're mainly vegetarians. Sometimes they'll eat little insects, but it's mainly flowers, seeds, berries, grass, and sometimes maybe even bits of bark. I've personally seen them grab marula berries and they run off with them and they eat that. And I've actually once witnessed them eat the seed pods of the shambok pod, which is I'll actually at some stage, if I see one, I might take a sample to show you a little bit later, but it's a very, very long seed pod, almost about longer than a ruler. And so obviously they went after that for the seeds as well. Now, on some occasions you'll find that if there is a particular little food source, they might go to a point where they'll actually go and bury it underground, but they don't do that as often as, for instance, squirrels in other parts of the world. It's a good little one watching us, eh? I was saying to myself and Owen, we were trying to keep our movements to a minimum because they react so quickly to anything that might be a potential threat. But also you can imagine from that vantage point they have up in that tree, they can spot pretty much any predator, and often when you hear them alarming, they've either seen a bird of prey or a snake or a leopard or a lion. They will alarm for many different predators. So even for us when we drive around here in the bush, it is quite beneficial to keep a listen out for the alarm calls of squirrels. I haven't really seen any other ones here. I think it is just those two this morning. Peter, if I got your name correctly, yes, I agree. That is, thank goodness we've got these very, very good cameras that help us to get such a great view of them, which is actually fantastic because that also means that we can view animals from further away without really disturbing them. Because different animals have got different levels of comfort zones in terms of how close you can get to actually view them. But like I said, with these cameras, we can put a good distance sometimes between animals, and like these little squirrels, have the opportunity to actually zoom right on them so we can get a good view of them. Because if we were to go like even a meter closer, they'll just scamper off and go somewhere where we can't see them. And then you can see, look at those tiny little feet there at the back. And quite little sharp claws, and that's actually what they use when they're climbing on these little branches in and up the trees. I haven't seen that one grooming for too much, but you can almost imagine it looks like the one at the back there is almost not so much hugging, but it's lying over the one at the bottom. And we had quite a cool night last night. We had a little bit of rain, and so it is cooler than the other days we've had, and possibly it was even a little bit more wet. So I wouldn't be surprised if part of them staying together is actually just to warm each other. I think, what's the little one doing? Oh, there might be some more grooming happening, but I don't watch that little pink tongue. But I think what we're going to do is we're probably going to leave these two squirrels soon and then maybe head our way towards the river.
It's the month of March and WildEarth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is a pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
Riverbeds are a great way to find water, and look for places where elephant have excavated hollows. You can then dig into the sand, and after a couple of feet you should find damp sand, which then can be squeezed out or siphoned off for water. And with water being one of our scarcest resources, it is a good idea to conserve water where and how you can.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that is truly, truly magical.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Cool, so I don't know what bumble about. Searching to hope if we could find maybe a leopard tracks or lion or finding animal itself. We came stop here where it's a little bit of a water that is stuck here due to the wet. And there's a little terrapin that is still submerged down to that little brown dry leaf. It's probably trying to come out. Sticking its head out. So, Mila, you're asking what's the difference between a tortoise and a terrapin. So, there's a difference there. Terrapin, they are dependent water, and tortoise, they're actually inland. But their body structures, shells, different, where these tend to be slightly flat for a terrapin compared to a tortoise where it builds the shells like heel up a bit, but with this little dot that is visible quite a lot, where in this one there's clearly slightly dark due to the time they spend in the mud, but also how they retract their heads out of the shell is different, where this one is swinging aside way. That's how they hide their head inside of the shells, where tortoise would straight away back the head and then out straight away, so they don't swing it aside to hide it into that shell. And the third things, a tortoise, they mainly feed on plants, vegetarian, where these feed on anything worms. If something died a fish died in the water, they take care of it, clean out. So you're asking if do terrapin have tail. So I don't know if I would call that tail, but that little thing that is actually under their claw, which is close to that anal. But it's where when they want to defecate and things like that, they have to release or, they defecate and then always control it back to the shell. But it's not actually proper tail. Same to tortoise, would have that as well. Many of the animals with tails would help them quite a lot. They can't too much from their backside, but those who have tails, and they were able to wipe around in their back. So I'm going to carry on and search here. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Kyle with something small to shore.
Alright, so meandering further down south, this striking, beautiful trumpet-shaped flower caught our eye, and we thought we had to stop and just appreciate this wonderful looking species of plant. This is a plant known as wild foxglove. We typically see them, this past year, I've typically found them in the mountains within Tswalu, but traveling through a bit of the Northern Cape, we can also find them on roadsides. This is a fairly small one. This is about a little bit more than a meter. This can get up to about 2 meters. This is wild foxglove, part of the sesame family, so same as the plant that we looked at a couple of weeks ago. But what a beautiful, beautiful trumpet-shaped flower. Look at that. And it's very distinctive. We can take a look at the flower. Very, very distinctive, big trumpet-shaped flower. These beautiful purple lines going into the throat of the flower. And these flowers can go they can range from being white to almost like a lilac color. Very, very prominent flower, wild foxglove. There is 2 species. The second species, would vary a bit on the flower and then as well as the shape of the leaves. But the shape of this flower over here, being trumpet-like shaped, is very, very distinctive. And this flower is directing any pollinators to where they really need to go. Because if you think about the important parts, the anther and the pistil, so the male and female reproductive parts, they are housed or positioned on a flower in a very specific spot depending on the flower and depending on who pollinates it. So you'll find that flowers can have very, very, very close and very, very tight relationships with specific species of insects. And if I lift this up here, you can't see much until I really lift the flower up and look how the reproductive part is actually loose in the flower. It's actually sitting up against the roof of this flower. So what this flower wants is an insect actually to crawl right in to the central part of this trumpet shaped flower, and that's where a bit of pollen is going to be deposited on the dorsal section.
Does this flower need a lot of water to survive?
Sarah, does this flower need a lot of water to survive? I'm not too sure of its water requirements. I think it would need a relatively stable amount through the wetter periods, because in the past 2 years, I have not seen the species of plant flowering Tswalu. Now, after the good rains, boom, they are everywhere, especially at the base or the foothills of the Coronaburg range. That's where I'm finding them a lot right now. So I would assume, taking an educated guess, that they would need a fair amount of water in order to grow to this beautiful, beautiful height. So lovely, lovely flowers that you can recognize it on. And then if I bring your attention down this way over here, If we come down to the beautiful leaves, you can see that the leaves have almost a distinctive heart-like shape. So that's a very easy way to recognize this plant, and also very important when it comes to producing the resources that this plant needs. And then there is something also very distinctive about this plant. It has a very unpleasant smell. I was trying to explain to BK, it's almost like if you leave cheese inside of a Tupperware and that isn't refrigerated, it's got a very, very unpleasant smell to it. But a very, very beautiful plant, and something that I love to appreciate. Plants are fantastic. When it comes to the flowers across the board of South Africa are extremely varied, and if you ever have the luxury of visiting this wonderful and diverse country, do yourself a favor, head into the Western Cape and take a look at the variety of flowers displayed there. Obviously one of the major flora kingdoms of the world, the fynbosbaan, fine bush, translated from Afrikaans. Lovely plant to see here. But let's send you over to somebody else for a short bit. We'll see you soon.
Welcome to your live safari here at Phinda, and we have come across some elephants. Very exciting morning. We saw their tracks a few minutes ago, and we've been following them. Often big herds of elephants like this are very interesting to try and find because they sometimes move quite long distances overnight. And I'm very happy to have managed to track down these elephants this morning. You'll see that this one in front of us is quite a big elephant, and he's a bull that's been trailing the herd. And if you look at his penis, actually, you'll see that it's oozing urine. It's been doing so all morning. So this is an elephant in a state of must, which actually often makes them quite aggressive. So we're just going to have to treat him gently. But at the moment, he's very relaxed, actually. And it's interesting, though, because older elephants like this one, we can tell he's old just by his size, and there's other few things that we look out for, like those dimples or those little depressions above his eyes. And when they're in must, they usually can control it a lot better than the younger bulls. You can also see his tusks are extremely wide at the base. And basically what he'll be doing is trailing this herd of elephants. Old males like this don't necessarily spend a lot of their time with the herds. When they get to the age of about 15 or 20 years old, they'll be kicked out by the matriarch to live a more solitary life. Sometimes they'll join up with other bulls. And when they're in a state of must like this, they'll actively go and try and seek out the herds to try and find females that are in estrus. And he gave us an awesome show earlier. He just knocked down that whole tree that he's feeding off. Can even see some leaves on the top of his back. Quite messy feeders, actually. Yes, Rodrigo, he is an amazing bull. I love spending times with elephants, or times with elephant, because the sounds they make and the feeling that you get when you're sitting with them is incredible. Especially with such magnificent ones like this guy. Daniel, no, they don't feed more when they're in must. I would actually hazard a guess as to say they probably feed less because they are so distracted by other things. but they certainly will still have to eat. Elephants' digestive systems are not very efficient, which makes them quite valuable in the ecosystem by spreading seeds and nuts, so the dispersal of trees and grasses. And the reason being because they eat quite a lot and they travel long distances, so they can eat a marula and the next day they can drop that seed a few kilometers away. So they definitely play their part in the environment, but because they're not very efficient feeders, they have to feed a lot. And that's why even when he's in must like this, he still spends a lot of time feeding. But it looks like the herd has actually stopped, because there are a few further to my left. The view of them isn't great for us at the moment. But I presume when they all start moving off, he'll likely try and follow them. For now, we're really, really lucky to just have him in the road like this. The area around us is very thick. It's interesting how he's swapped over. It looks like he's eating grass now. Never mind. So there are a few more on our left. I don't want to go to where he's gone because I don't want to get too close to him. Let me just edge us forward a couple of meters. No, they might. Looks like all the herd has started to move off now. So my name is Angus, and behind the camera this morning we've got Craig. Miss Bill, I don't know if they need to drink more water when they're in must. Maybe they do because they move quite long distances, so it could be that they drink a little bit more, but they drink so much every day it'll probably be very difficult to tell. I'm just going to move us forward 10 meters or so. Looks like the bums of the herd as they can see how he's flapping his ears now. And he's actually giving off a very particular scent. I know you all can't smell it, but here where I am, when an elephant's in must, I'm basically where he was feeding off that tree at the moment, and it's a very pungent smell that he gives off. So it's one of the things you can look out for when you are in the bush. RBJ, my first experience with an elephant was probably here on Phinda. And I came across a big herd when I was still training to be a ranger here, and was incredible. They are really, really interesting animals to watch. So complex, always busy, and the social dynamics of them is really, really, really different to all the other animals out here, basically. Have a look at those huge ears as he's flapping them. So, a very, very thick skin. So what he's doing, sometimes a little bit out of irritation, but in this case, I think it's because he's just trying to cool himself down. He's trying to pass air over those veins. You'll probably be able to see them as he opens and closes those ears. And there's a dense network of veins and capillaries, and the skin behind an elephant's ear is the thinnest over its whole body, so heat is able to pass quite easily between the blood What's quite interesting is their ears cover, the surface area of their ears takes up about 20% of their whole body. So we are going to probably loop around and try and find the rest of the herd. They are heading towards another road. We are going to send you over to Lauren at the moment, who's on the dam cam.
I've still not been very successful at finding anything on a dam cam, to be honest with you, but I shall give you some lovely views of Gowrie Dam itself. I haven't visited this dam in quite a while because a lot of the roads leading to the dam are actually blocked off. We're not allowed to drive them, and the dam wall was pretty unsteady for a while. Now, I think we can go across the dam wall now, but that's the reason I personally haven't visited in quite some time. And I remember the last time I was on the dam cam, I actually spoke about something called Wildbook. And I don't know if this interests any of you, but I find it really fascinating, and it's a really great tool to see how research, technology and citizen science can actually blend together to create something amazing. A lot of people reach out to me and say, how can I help? How can I be involved? Well, you absolutely can. Everyone can. And I just wanted to tell you about it. There's one thing called the Whisker Book. If you want to research it, you just go to whiskerbook.org, and it's about jaguars, but I would imagine very slowly it's going to sort of increase and expand and include lots of cats. And it's there to obviously identify, protect and learn more about the big cats worldwide. And well, let's just say we live in a machine world right now. We all know it. My phone flooded the last time we went out in the rain, which was very, very sad, and I was lost. I was completely lost without my phone. I couldn't contact my family back home. I didn't even have access to Uber, and just small things like that we don't think about. So basically, we live in a world of machines, whether we like it or not. And this is all about combining machine learning, making a positive thing for conservation. So it teaches you how, if you do see a species, and in this particular case it's a jaguar, so if any of you have ever traveled, I know some of you have, and you've seen jaguars, you can submit your photo and you can be part of research itself. So you become part of the project, and it teaches you exactly how it works. So we talk about spot patterns out here for leopards and hyenas, and coat patterns for wild dogs. And then you can actually see how a specific algorithm works, and how you're actually able to identify the individual that you have seen using a machine and contributing to science. And it's just a fascinating read. So even if you've never seen a jaguar before and you don't plan to, it's just a really, really fascinating read about the big cats. You can also go over to Fluke Book, and you can also learn about oceanic animals. So if you've ever been on a whale tour and you've taken a photo, you can contribute. So that's Whisker Book and Fluke Book, if you are interested. So I'm going to sit here and possibly have another coffee, and now we're going to send you across to another live location.
This morning has definitely turned out very good. We've managed to find the pride of lions, and they haven't moved from the same spot they were yesterday. There's one other lioness coming into the picture. So at the moment, looks like there's 9 animals here. I don't know where the others are. And the first thing that caught my eye when I got here was obviously just to see these little youngsters that are now feeding. But this lioness and some of the other members, if I'm not mistaken, actually look a little bit fuller than yesterday. Oh, I think that cub's also had a nice drink. It's probably about to pass out. Who can't enjoy that? So when we got here, all 3 young ones were suckling. Looks like there's just one more left. And luckily for these lions, it actually started out as a very, very nice, cool day. Still have a little bit of cloud cover, so they seem to be enjoying it. If it does heat up later on, they might move where there's some shade. But even now, in the open, it's a really nice, cool temperature. This is exactly what these lions want. I think Blair's asking, are there any white lion... Ooh. That was a hit to the face. So what happened there is that mother is very protective of her youngsters, and she didn't want any of the other lions coming to her cubs. And there was just a little snarl. Because you can imagine now, these cubs are still tiny, and she's just recently reintroduced them to the pride. And the reason she waited up until 2 months is she wants the cubs to be a little bit stronger, but the reason they don't bring them the day they're born is because the other lions potentially can hurt them. Some of these cubs that are about a year and older, they might be playing a little bit too hard, and they can potentially hurt her. And that was a classic example of just one of the 1-year-old cubs coming a little bit closer, and that lioness just said no. So really interesting to see that. Just back to the question, there's no white lion cubs at the moment here, but this is the pride where the white lions are part of. But this pride, which is at the moment, it has to be over 21 lions now, because we know for a fact that there are new cubs. We don't know how many in the new litter, but it's definitely over 21. And this pride is split up, so some of the sub-adult lions are actually where the white ones are. So we've got 2 white lions in this pride. One is a female that's around about 2 years, and the other one is a young male that's about coming close to 2.5 years now. And they're the same ones we've been trying to find for the last few days, because they are part of this pride. But the last few weeks we've seen them leave the pride and sort of go off exploring a little bit of the territory by themselves, because they at that stage now where they feel a bit more comfortable leaving the lionesses. Still chasing that other one away. As you can see, the morning light has now just broke through the cloud. Right, well, this is a really lovely scene. I think what we'll do is we'll possibly still sit here for the morning and see how things unfold.
WildEarth is launching a brand new bushwalk from Pride Lands. With a slew of potential dangers lurking, it's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot, and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that?
Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I tell you, seeing lions on foot, it definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
What are you looking at, man? That's its gangster face. It has the manners of a common variety vagabond. Look at it, chewing with its mouth open like that.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at WildEarth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you're going to have to register on the website. But once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Beautiful, so we now got a hippo in this lake that it looks like they just come back from their grazing land, since they have spent all night outside of the water, as they always do as a hippos. The weather's not bad, where it's cloudy, and they would be playful sometimes, even maybe come outside of the water when they want to, and always go back to the water. Just then, so you're asking, why do the hippo only leave water in the evening? And so it's a way of avoiding the sunburn. And secondly, they're nocturnal, but they have very sensitive coat, skin, where when they come out at night, they can spend the whole night because there's no sunlight. Then the skin is staying moisturous the whole night, not to dry it out. When they do that during the day, then they mainly get burned if it's no clouds in that heat. So that's why they only come out at night, because it works well for their coat. And they are nocturnal. And also they graze, but they eat grasses. And to reach grasses, they have to move out of the water a long distance sometimes. So Lama, so you're asking, do I think there's a crocodile in this dam here? So we at the Chita Dam that we know for sure there is a fear of a crocodile in this area, in this dam here. But not that we can see right now, but there is a crocodile in this lake. So crocodile mainly come out basking when it's sun up, where there is no yet sun coming out yet, but I'm sure it will be during the course of the day. And this one came nice and closer. Janet, so you're saying they have a funny little ears. Indeed, they are. You know, I always say that they have a very beautiful little ears compared to the rhino, and you would experience or maybe expect to see huge ears in this animal, but they have a little ears. But for that, it's because they were then well designed differently to the land mammal, where those rhinos spend time most of the rest of the hours inland, where these spend a lot of time in the water. But these ears, so eardrums, actually protected by a little system that sometimes shut off, especially when they submerge down. So these ears flat back slightly, and then his system shut. So the water goes into the eardrum, exactly. So we're looking at the part of Hippo. And then when they move out at night, as a group, or female, they will just line up, move together. For that, they will be taking care of their young one, where they put them mainly in the middle at night when they move. So I'm going to continue look around. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to a thread with these lines.
Very thirsty indeed. We actually were quite lucky with this male lion. Got up and walked straight towards us. Started to drink, so we can't ask to get a better view, but you can see how he's lapping it up there. Now, with them being so thirsty, I actually wonder if they maybe didn't make a kill last night. Because when I arrived here, I saw these lions and I was thinking, I'm pretty sure their stomachs look a little bit more full than yesterday. But we got here, they're in the same place, and there's no signs of a carcass. So what possibly could have happened is sometime during the night, maybe something like a female Ngala walked through the riverbed close here. And they could have taken it down, and with the amount of lions here, there wouldn't be, much left, and they possibly would have ripped it apart and taken different parts into, where the river bank is there behind the thickets, So it is possible that that could have happened, and while we can't see any signs of a carcass close by, but their stomachs definitely look fuller. So I'm just watching now, just to the right of that male lion is one of the younger cubs, and he actually came around the corner, and he's stalking, he just went into the long grass. I wonder if he wouldn't potentially run. It all depends on the mood of the male as well. If he's not in a good mood, he might swat the little one. Watch him. He's thinking of it. There he goes. There's a second one coming. How nice is that to see how gentle the male lion actually is with those young ones. And there he goes. Is he scent marking? And that action is what makes him the dominant male. Lee is asking how often do the cubs play with the males? Well, it also varies from time to time, but in the prides that I've seen, actually fairly often, the cubs are quite playful. And it's quite amazing to see that the big males actually don't really mind it. Like I said, except if for some reason they're in a bad mood, you might see that they'll just give a bit of a snarl or maybe just sort of a bite in the direction to tell the cubs, listen, I'm not feeling like playing now. But it is really interesting to see how sensitive the males can be. And I've even seen it on prides where they're feeding, where the male lion won't allow any of the other members to feed on that carcass, but right next to him will be the newest members. So a real little bit of sensitivity from the male lion towards the young ones. Because of course he identifies, he knows that this is his offspring. So just about a few minutes ago, that sun actually came through the cloud, and shortly after that, all of the members got up and they went around the corner there, and I think they just decided to move into some more shade. Had a bit of a drink, and now they're probably just going to go and rest for the rest of the day. Especially if they have eaten last night, then they might just sleep here. And it's quite interesting to see that I think they've been here now for 3 or 2, this is possibly their 3rd day, of being in the same area. And I wouldn't be surprised if they stay here for the rest of the morning, and then maybe by this afternoon they might decide to move to another part of the territory. But of course, never assume when you're out in the bush, so we'll only really know when we get here this afternoon to see if they have moved. And just like that, they can disappear. Not a sign of a lion here, apart from the tracks and the few piles of scat. And that always amazes me about being in a place like this, how a scene can literally change in a few seconds. But that was an absolutely brilliant way to start our morning. I think these lions are going to be resting for the rest of the day. And I think what we'll do is we'll leave the riverbed and continue further up north and west and maybe see what other animals we can find. In the meantime, we're going to send you to look at a tall animal.
Well, lucky from our side here, these animals aren't gonna disappear very quick. But lovely to sit with giraffe and just observe them. They're always busy. They spend a very large portion of a 24-hour cycle feeding. They need to feed. They are referred to as what we'd call one of the mega herbivores of the bush. Obviously consuming vast amounts of vegetation and always busy. And just very entertaining. That long muzzle being a very important tool for these animals to get in between all those very tricky, spiny thorns. Munching down on a little mouthful there that will then go down the esophagus and then end up in the first chamber, the rumen. And that's where the process will then continue at a bit later stage when the animal's at rest, where the material that it's consumed now in this early morning period, just like the springbok that we saw earlier, where this material will be processed and broken up, where all this nutritional value will be extracted and then absorbed. A very, very efficient form of digestion that these animals have, being a rumen. Being a ruminating animal. The giraffe was chewing very funny. That's what got my attention. This is looks like a young group of males. Carl, I actually don't... Oh, how many times would a giraffe regurgitate? So I actually don't know. I've never read anything. I've never heard anything about how many times an animal will regurgitate to empty that first chamber. So that chamber will push up a ball of material referred to as a cud. And within that first chamber, maybe to do it 30 times. I would have to count one day. I would have to sit down for you, Carl, one day and observe a giraffe to where it starts and finishes the process. I don't think there's an exact count. It just has to empty that first chamber, chew it down, break it down some more, and then when it gets swallowed the second time, the fine material that is then obviously produced, and then the weight of it obviously mixed with saliva, then bypasses that first chamber. So I don't think there's an exact count on it's 25 or 30, regurgitative cuds to empty the chamber. I'm sure there'll be a rough estimate, but I don't think there's a defined answer right now. We're going to have to observe very carefully this morning. But yeah, having that material being brought up and then chewed again, it is broken down a lot better.
Welcome back to Phinda. And I'm very, very, very excited to be able to show you some cheetah this morning. So it's these three subadults that I'm sure a lot of you are quite familiar with by now. Looks like this one maybe has a little bit of hiccups. I saw it opening its mouth, and now it is yawning. And if you look at them closely, you can see how camouflaged they are in that beautiful tawny color of theirs against the grass seeds. Actually helps them blend in quite well. There's two more off to the right, and they're actually quite difficult to spot. See how this one on the left has always got its head up. So they should always try and... Wow, beautiful big yawn there. They should always try and keep one of the members alert, and that'll definitely help them survive here. I'm sure you're all familiar with the story of how they lost their mother when they were very young. And now we are trying to rehabilitate them back onto the reserve. It is, of course, extremely difficult for them having lost their mother. But it's important for us to try and establish cheetah genetics out in the wild. they're still quite physically small, and I'm sure as they get bigger and stronger, they'll be better at surviving out here. Osborne, yes. These cheetah are old enough to hunt on their own. Cheetah start participating in hunts with their mother at around the age of 10 months old. These cheetah are a little bit older than that, so they are old enough to hunt in the wild. But of course it is quite difficult for them because they didn't get taught the skills that would help them hunt from their mother. You can see how their behaviors change very slightly. So the two further on the right have lifted up their heads. This one's been yawning frequently, which is a way for, well, the big cats often do that to try and oxygenate their bodies, get a lot of oxygen in, and it might be a sign that they would want to move soon. Beautiful light shining on their faces as well. A lot of mixture of little flowers in there. There's some sedges. Wild basil. There's a carrot seed grass just in front of its head. See that long plume of grass? It's got a lot of seeds very densely packed together, almost directly in front of its nose at the moment. Maybe a bit to the right for you. I see the one in the middle is also starting to groom itself and yawn now. You can really see that thick, long fur on the back of their necks. If you have a look at their nostrils, you'll see that there's a slit on the edge of their nostrils. So the big cats all have this, and it actually helps them when they are hunting. You can imagine after a long chase, cheetah extremely... Oh wow, one's just got up. Sorry, let's talk about the nostrils later. Lovely to see a little bit more of them, and you can see their very, very long, slender bodies. Cheetah are extremely light. And the reason for this being that in order to chase down antelope, which are their primary prey, like impala are very, very fast and very agile too. So the cheetah don't want to be carrying any other weight that would help them change direction or slow them down. You can see this area they're in is quite open. So it means they've got good vision all the way around them to spot prey and spot potential danger. So this is where you'd expect to find cheetah. And you can really see how slender they are now.
When on safari, there's nothing better than an evening spent under the stars chatting around a fire, with the sounds of the wild all around you. If you sign up to be a WildEarth explorer, you can build your own memories by joining our guides for regular fireside chats. Subscription payments can be made by PayPal, credit card, and now bank transfer. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
We get asked quite regularly what are the differences between African and Asian elephants. We caught up with Haresh, who's from Leopard Trails, which is based in Sri Lanka.
Of course, size and weight is the first thing you notice. The African elephant is much bigger than the Asian elephant. Tusks in the Asian elephant, it's a very small percentage of male elephants only who have tusks. I was told that there's a theory that the African elephant's ear is in the shape of Africa. The Asian elephant has a much smaller ear. The elephant represents the bush and the jungle in Sri Lanka in a quintessential manner, and I think it's very important that we do whatever we can to protect them.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. I'm looking really forward to taking you through and showing you all the beautiful places here at andBeyond in Ngala. If you have any questions, please register on our website. Once registered, go to the live page feed and post your questions underneath the live feed. Join me on my next safari through andBeyond in Ngala on WildEarth. Send me live questions through the WildEarth website and I'll answer them live from the African bush.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Beautiful. So we got a Egyptian geese over here where it looks like a lawn. We mainly do that. They sometimes been found far from the watering hole, but it's because they're vegetarian. So they would spend times around a watering hole when they can, but also they can wander far from the water, just like what we see right now there. They usually pair, male and female. I'm not sure what happened to the partner. And it's not often that you find a female stolen by another male, where usually every time's arrival of another male pair, they would be able to defend their places by fighting off that male together, male and a female. So I'm not sure what happened here. Glenn, so you're asking if I can tell the age of these geese? No, I cannot, but it's a fully grown. We usually grow, their general lifespan isn't a thing. They can reach up to 11, possibly 15 years. So they also nest mainly in trees close to the watering hole. In a minute they'll use the top of the hammerkop nest, put 8 to 11 eggs. So I'm gonna carry on, look around, see if I can find anything for everybody to shore, and I'm gonna be sending you across to Fred with something to shore.
So after leaving the lions, we've managed to find a young elephant bull. That's just doing what elephants are doing most time of the day, and he's busy feeding. Looks like he's selecting some different creepers growing in amongst the grass, but I had a careful look. Every now and then he just takes a few grasses with him when he puts it into his mouth. So a young elephant bull like this, or elephants in general really, are very clever with what they want to eat. They can select specifically, they know what they want in their diet, and they can vary their diet in an amazing way, eating very different variety of species of plants, ranging from roots to grasses to flowers to fruits, seeds, bark. This one seems to be going specifically more for the forbs and creepers and grasses. Just normally this time of the year, when we've had a good rain and it's the summer months, and those plants are normally coming up after the rain, you see that their diet mainly focuses on those sort of plants. And there's a bird I can hear, but one I can't see, which is a fork-tailed drongo, which is a little black bird that you often find associated close to elephants. And what that bird is doing is actually following close to where the elephant is feeding. And as the elephant moves through the grass, you got him. Oh yeah, there he is. That's the little one. So he's close to where the elephant is feeding, because as that elephant moves through the grass, it disturbs insects, and then that bird will go and actually select and catch the insects that the elephant disturbed. But he's flying away from the elephant, so I think he might be trying to chase off another bird that's in the area. Oh yeah, that's right. We did see a giraffe, and there's a giraffe just behind this bush, which we can't see at the moment, and I think he's using the giraffe in the same way he used the elephant, just trying to get any insects that are being disturbed while it's moving through the grass, and probably feeding there as well. So Dr. Rocky Balboa is asking if elephants get along well with giraffe. From what I've observed, I'd say yes. I don't think that the elephants mind them really. And also it would depend on the particular elephant. If it's a bull that's frustrated and quite aggressive, if for some reason the giraffe walks right up to it, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually tries and chases the giraffe away. But generally like this, when they're feeding, they're not considered enemies of each other. No real conflict there at all. And especially in a time like now where they're not even really feeding on the same plants. This one's feeding on grass and forbs, where the giraffe would be feeding on the leaves of some of the trees. Now sometimes elephants do feed on the same stuff giraffe feed on, but because there's so much of it here, there's no reason why they should feel like they're fighting for the same resource. And also I think I wouldn't be surprised after a while that the giraffe and the elephant, just from here feeding, they'll split and go separate ways. And then you find that giraffe might join up with another giraffe, or while it's feeding, come across another elephant. So I think it's a very casual, just, crossing of roads, really. Not necessarily that the giraffe would follow the elephant or vice versa. They're just herbivores in this landscape, and they share the same the same area and the same habitat, and it's bound that they'll come across one another every now and then, and that's why we often do find them alone, well, together, and other times we find them by themselves. There's the dronga there. Yep, that little dronga has gotten close to the elephant now. You often see specifically that little bird will fly close to where the trunk of the elephant is, because that's where most of the insects are being disturbed. And he'll fly down and up, trying to hawk any of those insects. Renate is asking if elephant bulls recognize their offspring. To be honest, I don't know, but I don't think so. I haven't read of any research to try and prove it, but I think it might be probably a difficult thing to prove, but on the other hand, elephants are really intelligent. So, it will depend on if a bull actually knows which females he's been mating with and if he can make that association. But if you look at elephant behavior and what an elephant bull will do, they're bachelors for the most of their adult life. When they go into must and they're looking for females to mate with, they'll join a herd, find the female elephants that are on estrus, mate with them, and then they move out the area. There's no real role that they play in the rearing of the young or protecting them against other animals or defending a territory, because elephants don't really have a territory like that. And so I don't think there's a real way that they might recognize another one. You can imagine after many years that young elephant bull's left the herd at about between 12 to 14 years, and it eventually becomes a young adult and crosses paths with the father. I don't think that they'll actually recognize each other, to be honest. And it's also very possible that the young elephant might move into an area that's a different area to the one that his father actually is using. Because there seems to be a particular drive from young elephant bulls, especially when they become mature, that they actually specifically leave the natal herd, the herd that they come from. They move out of that area, and it might be an instinctive thing or a built-in thing to ensure that there's no real inbreeding. Because if he stays in an area close to where his herd is, the chance is good he's probably going to try and mate with relatives. But if he's forced to leave that area, which means eventually he'll go into an area where there's other female elephant, and eventually you won't have any genetic problems there. Especially the first time a young elephant bull goes into must, there's just a drive for them, and they cover huge distances. That elephant is going straight into that berry bush. You see that little drongo flying underneath his legs. He's having a good time as well. Looking at that picture, almost the only thing that really catches your eye is either the trunk moving, but you see the tail wagging as well. Because you wouldn't believe it, but when an elephant stands dead still in a bush, you would easily mistake it for just another tree stump, or you wouldn't even see it, or you'd think it's possibly a rock. They just actually disappear very easily in the bush. Looking at the direction this elephant is facing, I think that he is probably might be heading towards the river at some stage, feeding on some of the plants there and maybe going for a drink in the river. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to leave this elephant and continue on our search, see what else we can find, and maybe go to a nice big watering hole. In the meantime, we'll send you over to Kyle.
We did have a wonderful juvenile pale chanting goshawk, but it decided to take off just like that. So we will take off just like that. We're taking it very slowly this side, and I'm trying to pick up on anything and everything. I don't like to focus on a specific thing. Obviously, if a guest wants to focus on a cheetah or a lion, that's what we'll do. But as a guide, you want multiple aspects of nature to come through on a game drive, which is really entertaining. And just back to our previous sighting of the wonderful tall horses, the giraffe. Sorry, I totally misunderstood that question. How many times would that animal ruminate? And I spoke about how many times it would regurgitate its cud. I apologize about that. How many times that animal would ruminate is typically twice within a 24-hour cycle. Now through the midday period, late afternoon it would feed again, fill up that first chamber into the evening, and then somewhere this evening it will ruminate again, and then early morning back into tomorrow morning it will then fill up that chamber again. So typically twice within a 24-hour cycle that animal will ruminate. So I apologize about not hearing and understanding the question correctly. But let's crest over this dune. What we're going to do is stop on top of the dune crest. This is the only spot we are allowed to stop on a dune crest, is where there is a cut line, obviously ensuring the safety of these. Ha la la. BK, you guide. Let's see where we can get a gap here. Huh? BK has just spotted a beautiful kudu female, and there she runs. Oh. Lovely, look at that. She was standing on the dune crest here, and she was standing absolutely dead still. Let me just roll back for us a bit, BK. Okay. Oh. No, we're going to lose it if I go further back there. Let me just remove that item. Sorry about that little item in the way there, folks. Thank you, BK. Oh, she's moved around the bush. Just hold on. Let me just roll back for us quickly. She's just moved slightly further back. It's a lovely female, and she's all by her lonesome, which is not very common. There she is. BK on it there. Oh, and there she goes. Everything is on the move this morning here in the Kalahari. But she was standing absolutely dead still, and from her beautiful coat pattern and as well as coloration, she was well blended where I missed her totally. But the angle that BK was at, he managed to spot her very, very easily. But what we're going to do is, head up to the crest of this dune, stop on top here and take a nice view, see what we can see from on top here. I can feel the sun warming up my back quite intensely. That heat and pressure is really starting to come down now. Lovely, look at that. And we're already starting to see a color change within the grass. And I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I think it was more than a couple of weeks ago, maybe December, that we would stay green until maybe about April. That's also my previous years where we've received later rains. So this year we've received rains quite early. The grass has gone through its flowering and seeding period a lot earlier, and then obviously giving us this beautiful light brown, typical Kalahari colors a bit earlier this year. So obviously that period where this color scheme would change would vary depending on when the rains come. And this year we've had fairly early rains, which we are very, very happy about. And great rainfall as well in terms of the amount touching this very, very thirsty land. But how stunning is that? All right. Sorry?
Well, Lana says they love the trees in this area.
Lana, you love the trees in this area. The camelthorn really does this place justice. The camelthorn is one of the most prominent trees through this landscape and the largest tree you'd find in the Kalahari system. And then there is a few other role players here like the blackthorn and then this lovely tree on the side of us here, the grey camelthorn, which has a very distinctive colour to it. BK is going to show us right now. You can see the colour of this tree is very distinctive in comparison to the greenery around us. You can see it's like soft grey, almost like silverish tinge to it. Grey camelthorn or Vichilia hematoxylon. Very important tree out here, especially through the winter period for browsing animals. Very, very important source of sustenance. But the Kalahari does really do it justice. All right, BK's just seen the antelope, but we're going to follow up on this antelope over here, but we're going to send you to somewhere that's... Somebody's got knocking something, that's all I heard. Let's send you over that way.
So we are now spotted a woodpecker, a bearded woodpecker, as you can hear. That's what we hear. So this is a way of communication, and that sound can travel further away, advertising its own territory. Also, the other females will get to know where he is. Most woodpecker, they actually have very hard shell, a skull that would be able to allow them to bang any of the wood, and this is how they hunt. Feed on anything, wood burrow, anything is inside a wood. But pecking like that, they would even make their own entrance hole for a nest in trees, which the nest in trees hole. Timothy, so you're asking how many species of woodpecker we have in Djuma. We have quite a few. So bearded woodpecker is one of them. The smallest one is a cardinal woodpecker, and we have golden tail woodpecker as well as a Bennett's woodpecker. So yeah, around 4 different species of them. Looks like what was a response from the other partner way off. So when you're on a hunt, what happened, they have a very prehensile tongue, which is, it's got a full of very sticky, gluish saliva that would only help that bird when it sticks into the hole. Whatever it's in there would be able to come out with it, because it would be actually attached to a tongue, which that little glue would stick on that prey for it to be able to bring into its mouth to feed on it. Ryan's asking if there is any of the woodpecker, if I understand that well, stashing into the bark trees. And all woodpeckers, due to the hunting, their hunting behavior is the same. And they would rely on trees pretty much, except for Bennett's woodpecker, which they specialize on grounds most. But the rest are. So Lolly asking if all of them have a different knocking frequency. So this species, a bearded or woodpecker, they're the only species would knock as a communication. And then, but the hunting methods, they all have knocking or pecking into wood. It's the same, apply the same to cardinal woodpeckers, those where they peck wood for their own food. But due to communication, some where the others they can make sound, this species, but this sound they're doing it right now, it's because they wanted to travel so far away and then able to hear by the other same species of the woodpecker. But the other one we heard from the distance looks like it's pecking on a very low frequency, which depend on trees. Some trees where it's got to be chosen by this bird when they fly around and knock every time. And once they realize this is part where it's going to bring a lot of a huge frequency, then they do it from that position. Right, so we're going to be searching along this road, see if we find anything. I'm going to be sending you across to Kara. This is an antelope.
Antelope disappearing into the endless sea of grass. That's what's happening here. Making it very tricky for PK, but he is managing to keep on that antelope very well. There's another one down here. PK, I don't know if you can see that one over there, through this little gap here. Oh, he's on it already, sure. Very long horns. looks like a group of females that are just meandering slowly. That's one thing about animals here on Tswalu, is that they still have this wild factor about them. If you get a little bit too close, they tend to move away very, very quickly. But on that, there's another one. Sure. Travis, are the antelopes afraid of the vehicles? Yes, they do have some fear. There's not a lot of guides that operate through Tswalu, and we have a very low occupancy rate per day. So if you take a look at these antelope, they don't see vehicles on a constant basis for them to become relaxed. Yeah, in and around the lodge, you would have antelope that are a bit more sedentary, that, over time become a little bit more relaxed with vehicles. But as we go out further west and southwest, these animals don't have a lot of interaction on a day-to-day basis with vehicles to become relaxed. So they still have this general fear of not understanding what we truly are. So as an animal, you want to rather flee than stay here to fight something. So yeah, they still do have a bit of a fear, which creates this very, very wild aspect. And as a guide and a tracker out here, you really relish when you can sit and watch an animal, after working very hard of trying to find it, and then having the right position, right wind, where everything just coincides and works together, where you can have a great sighting. Is really rewarding at the end of the day. And it really does make you work for it out here, trust me. But like I said, it is extremely rewarding when things come together. So those two just standing absolutely dead still. You can see from their freeze behavior how they just kind of blend into the mix of things there. Oh, Andrew, which antelope has the strongest horns? I would say they're all fairly strong, Andrew. I don't know if there is a winner on the strongest horn set. The horns are made up of bone and keratin. So, the typical structure is very, very strong. They have to be strong because the animals have to use them for defense, and then the males use them for fighting. So they have to be fairly sturdy and fairly strong to obviously withstand a lot of interaction or a lot of physical force. So I don't think there's a true contender for that pole position of number one. I'd have to say they're all very, very strong, Andrew. It has to be very strong because that antelope has to use them to defend itself. It's to fight for its life. So those horns, made up of those two components, bone and keratin, are fairly sturdy objects. And these antelopes are very, very good at using those elongated spear-like horns. And obviously enough physical force will break them, but they are very, very hardy structures. That individual just hiding in the grass. The sour grass on the side is very tall. Some parts of Tswalu, the grass, different species obviously, the grass is chest height. So you're talking about nearly a meter. You basically can get lost in it. But it's really, really beautiful now when this color scheme is starting to change and we have this almost different view of Tswalu being presented. So lovely. Well, I think we should leave these guys. I think we should meander on and see what else we can find. And see they are at a bit of a distance. So let's take you on further west here. Oh, Dr. Rocky Balboa. Whoa, there's a big dub. Are those horns stronger than a tusk? A tusk. Oh, there's another big bump. Oh, sorry, BK. The thickness of a tusk is really thick. I mean, the thickness of a tusk would be around about yay, if not a bit thicker. So an elephant's tusk would be a lot stronger than that of an oryx's horn. Because obviously if you look at an elephant would use those as tools, not to only debark trees, but also to break trees, and also for fighting. And those are overgrown in sizes. So yeah, I would say that an elephant's tusk is a little bit stronger than that of an antelope's horn. Just due to the sheer thickness of it. A male elephant's tusk is about yay big around the top section, and I mean the thickest horn we'd find would be a buffalo horn, I would say. A buffalo horn, or maybe the basal section of a earland. But I would have to say that an elephant's tusk would be a little bit stronger than that of an antelope's horn. Here we come to our next dune. As we go further west, we ride these beautiful undulating dunes. Oh, I thought that was a cheetah on top of the dune. Oh, cheetah love resting on top of these remarkable structures. Obviously they have a beautiful vantage point, but also coming to this hotter period of the day, a breeze actually is found on top of these structures. So coming up to these points, you always want to be very careful not to miss anything, because a cheetah can be very, very sneaky through things like sitting just behind bushes. And if they are scared, they'd be even sneakier. But for now, we're going to crest over here, but let's send you over to somebody else for a little bit, and we'll see when you get back this side.
It's the month of March, and WildEarth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer, and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
Our bodies are made up of about 60% water, which means that in a very short space of time, you can dehydrate completely. A relatively efficient way of collecting water early in the morning is to take an absorbent material like a sock and to walk through the grass, absorbing the condensed dewdrops on the grass. Once the material is saturated, you can then squeeze it out into a container, or you can suck it out directly into your mouth.
Hello, I'm Marna, your WildEarth safari guide from andBeyond Ngala. What I really like about connecting with WildEarth viewers is that we get to speak to viewers instantly, and I get to show you this beautiful property. If you want to ask me a question, register on the WildEarth website. Simply head over to the live safari page and you can submit your questions there. Join me or one of the other guides twice a day on WildEarth.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb, because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Cool, so we got now it looks like 2 Impalas here, the Antelope. And what is interesting about them, they, instead of being into very covered area, they camp close to the roadway, slightly open. But as the 2 male birds apply that they form kind of a bachelor group at the moment. antelope like Impala, they're one of the success antelope around. Where for safety, survival, they do better. They still get killed though. But many of time, this is when they are all separate from one another. So I'll be asking, what is the purpose of them forming the bachelor herd? So bachelor herd, it's well known of a word that means you don't have a female. So, and the species of the antelope that they mainly would get around in the group, they would form such a group as a bachelor. Look now, we got also buffalo, which they also do the same. Those are, they have lost the fight. And then of course there's no chance for them to dominate, and they would form that bachelor group. Stick together. And they will practice that fight or strength in that group. Chase each other. In case there is a challenge they may face. And that challenge is to face the dominant male within a harem of female during the breeding season mainly. And one of them would feel challenge that dominant male within the females, and the fight take place. Whoever lost the fight move out of the harem, the new dominate move in. Have a beautiful white tail there, so they would have a white tip end of the tail as a follow me sign in the back. And those are day animals that would have white, but also as a kudu. Many of these white, you see them, this animal when they run, they flip their tails up and underneath appears white as they run. And that's what makes them keep running in the same direction, not too lost from one another during that run. So I'm gonna search. I'm not actually giving up yet, searching for leopards. So I'm gonna be sending you across to Steve to say hello.
Good morning everybody. Welcome to the on-foot walking segment from Eco Training Providence, where we are out on foot and have been desperately trying to find ourselves some signal to say good morning. Hello, my name is Steve, joined by Gert on camera, and as always we've got our trusty backup up there, Willem, who maybe is going to get that wave and smile down this time. No, he's still a little bit shy. That's all right. We'll work him into it. How's everybody doing this morning? We've already had a buffalo on foot and another big beast on foot, but unfortunately we just weren't getting anything over there. But what we found over here and a little bit further up is some tracks. And there's a very nice track actually of, you see the pad over here, back pad. And look how wide those toes are. Very, very wide. There's 4 toes, back pad. This is the front foot And we came through Impala Plains just now, and we had the track of a lioness. But what's interesting about this, you can see where I've scraped my stick. We had about 10 mils of rain at about 3 o'clock last night. The students on drive last night got our lioness with the scar above her eye, heading back towards where we've been trying to find her and her cubs. But we found her tracks, plus tracks of a young male and a young female cub heading back away from where they came from. And there are 2 here. I can see that there's a second walking right next to each other. There's 1 and there's 2. And further down the road where we were struggling to get signal, we had all 3 of them together. So what I've discussed before in the past about the negative space between the toe, here's the toe and the pad. Can you see this length here? A huge length of negative space that is very prominent in lions versus leopards. Leopards, it's there, but it doesn't leave as much space in between. We call the space between the toes and the back pad negative space, because it's a place that doesn't really get impacted by their foot. It kind of goes into that groove. And leopards, male leopard, the toes are also wider than the back, but look how wide these are. Okay, so if this was a male leopard and I measured it, it would be the exact same length as it would be width. And you see how it's much wider than it's longer. Much wider than longer. Male leopard would be pretty symmetrical in that regard. The front foot, of course, the back foot is nowhere near as wide, but you can see how the toes are splayed still, even in the back pad. You won't find such a wide sort of splay in a leopard track. So, although I made the mistake last week of thinking there were 2 leopards following a lioness, indeed it was her little cub. So we've been trying to find them. The bush has been very thick. We kind of had an idea of where they were hanging out, but we weren't able to find them. And it looks like she came back last night. Students followed her all the way there, and now she's gone back out again before the sorts of weather. KV, what precautions do we take if we encounter a big cat? Well, obviously, to be walking out here, we need to have someone with a rifle. So here's her track over here. Here's her track. You see the size difference. Very clear back pad, very clear toes. That is her back foot, and her front foot is quite messy over there. So essentially, KV, we've always got to be walking with security, although you should never walk as if you are a gung-ho person. You know, we walk out here very sensitively, and we're always listening. One of the other reasons we need security is because Gert and I both got this earpiece in our ear, and it makes directional hearing quite difficult. If I took this out, my hearing is far better. But with this in my ear, I don't get that exact sound. So that's what Willem's job is to keep us safe and just to pay attention to the surroundings while we're talking. And if we encounter a big cat, what's generally going to happen is the person in front is very aware. They're looking. You walk like this, and you're looking, and if you see a cat, you'll notice it looking above you. Or sometimes what happens is you don't actually see the cat, and you just hear this, something like that. And I promise you, you hear that, and you automatically just stop, try to look. And you'll look, and you'll see something just peering over the grass, looking at you. And you just go backwards, 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 because you don't go forward, you don't turn your shoulder, and whatever you do, you don't run. Okay, well, we're going to carry on, see if we can find anything else. We're going to send you over to Carl, who's got one of his favorite things.
Well, very good luck to Steve on his search. There was a question asked, a lovely question asked by Andrew. And just driving along, and obviously my hard drive, aka my brain, isn't working as quick as it should be. My processing speed is a bit lower than usually is. Andrew asked a brilliant question: who out of the antelope family, who would have the strongest horns? And I was just thinking about it. I'd have to say, Andrew, it would be buffalo. Just the sheer size and structure of those horns. I would have to say buffalo would be one of the strongest horns possessed by antelope. So just answering your question there. And just stop to look at this nest. Something's really out of place. Something that looks like it shouldn't be there. and it's been deposited by a very special inhabitor. So if you look at these sociable weaver nests, obviously they are very, very important ecological systems within the Kalahari. And the nest is used by multiple animals, and especially one specific animal, which would be a bird, a pygmy falcon. And a pygmy falcon would nest nowhere else but within these mammoth structures. And we haven't been able to see it before. I don't know if Deirdre or maybe Moritz has seen it, or maybe Yuan. But it's normally from the underside that we're going to see this whitewashed deposit. You can see just from the position of where it is, it's on the side of the nest, we can see it quite easily. And it's really remarkable because that is a telltale sign that a pygmy falcon is currently using this nest or has used this nest previously. And I'm sure that, it has used the nest previously, and it would use the nest consecutively over a few years. And that is the excrement that the bird has deposited, obviously just putting its bum towards the entrance and boop, the excrement obviously building up at that site. Normally it's from the underside, so you actually physically have to be underneath the nest to see this whitewashed deposit that has obviously been deposited by the pygmy falcon. But very, very clear sign that this bird is inhabiting this nest. And as I mentioned, they are actually obligate breeders here in South Africa. So pygmy falcon will only use sociable weavers here in South Africa. If you go to East Africa, they would use other species, red-billed buffalo weavers, just to mention. So using other species' nests. Ooh, Brian, how often do snakes invade these nests? So, Brian, that typically happens through the summer period, obviously when reptiles are more active. And we would find them anywhere from September, October area or period, that they would be focusing a lot of attention and time on these nests. And especially after rains, when these birds will actively breed, that's when Cape Cobras and boomslangs are in hot pursuit of an easy meal. And where one cobra can detrimentally affect nearly 70% of the population of a single nest. So, but also a very important regulating factor. If you think about the snake, it's playing a vital role in actually regulating numbers so that you don't have an exponential increase of sociable weavers, which would then in turn detrimentally affect something else down the line. So typically in summer, you would find these Cape Cobras scaling along the sides of these nests, trying to find a weak spot that they can bore their snout into an existing chamber that is obviously housing the unfortunate little chicks. It sounds very, very rough, and sounds very, very sad, a cobra eating chicks, but it needs to happen. It's a very, very important process that needs to happen. And then these social weaves are obviously providing a housing accommodation for lots of animals. So they need to be here, but they can't be here in extraordinary numbers. A big nest like this would be maybe 200-300 birds in a large nest like this, which is very, very cool to see here at Tswalu. And the camel thorn obviously providing the perfect structure for these birds to build the nest. Kevin, the nest will fall off if it gets too heavy, if these birds have chosen a spot which is fairly far outreaching on a limb. And when we approach onto the rainy periods, this nest will soak up excess weight, obviously due to the absorbent effect. So take a look after big rains where the weight would increase. We do have nests coming down and limbs obviously breaking off the tree. But if you take a look, BK, if you can just go slightly down for us and then punch in there a bit, you can see where these birds have built this nest is in a fairly stable part. You can see that fork over there providing the perfect platform or the perfect structure for these birds to start off. And that's a lot of weight, don't get me wrong. They have selected a very good branch there. But eventually the tree will get old and it will start to lose its grip, so to say. but a very strong tree. It's a very tough tree, very, very hard wood. So it is perfectly adapted to support these beautiful nests. But while we appreciate this a little bit longer, let's send you over to Steve.
Thanks, Carl. Well, indeed, it is something cool. It's something that's not at full power yet this morning because it's been quite chilly. We've got a beautiful large dung beetle, and he's still busy feeding and applying more and more dung to his ball. This is one of our telecoprid dung beetles. Have a look at the power. There is a second one in there that's probably just feeding off of the dung. Probably a female. Look at this power. That ball must be 20 times his weight, perhaps. I'm guessing. We also see all of the wasps and flies landing on there. Importance of dung beetles out here. Removal of the dung and the burying of the dung is so important. Look at this power. You almost want to help him. But you know that he's got this. It's a big pile of elephant dung. Now, many of them around at the moment, as you've seen. And the amount of insects and organisms living inside this dung at the moment is incredible. Many of them will continue their life cycle inside the dung, feeding on the dung, scratching through it, breeding seeds, fruits, fermented vegetation. Come on, buddy, push. Just nearly got it. One of the fantastic elements of the bushwalk is the ability to get nice up close and personal with these sorts of things. It's not as easy from the vehicle to get the right angle. Oh, he's receding a bit. Maybe he's going to dig this down. No, here he comes. He's going to clear the path. Remove the berm. Liesel, you want to know why there are only 2 dung beetles? Well, if I look around the pile, over here, there's evidence that one is already buried. There's another one over here, and another one over there. And I'm going to use my stick this morning. If I just lift this, I'm going to put it back again. The fact that this pile is like this is evidence that there's been lots and lots of activity already inside the pile. And see all of these little dung beetles over here. There's many of them in there, busy feeding. There's another one. Many different species. That smells fabulous. And if you weren't certain that it was elephant dung, have a look at that marula over there. So a classic example with rhino and elephant dung when it's been processed like this, bearing in mind the whole thing looked like that at one point with that solid outer crust. This has been processed, and actually when it warms up, this is going to just start sort of vibrating with activity as all these organisms warm up with the heat. Many of them are already buried. You get your paracoprids, which will bury this dung directly underneath the pile. And then you get telecoprids like this fellow that are going to pull this ball out and roll it down the drag to wherever it is he feels is a nice place to do so. Girlfriend's not helping him very much. Matthew, incredibly strong, master weightlifter indeed. If you take one of these fellows, especially when they're nice and warm, and you put them in your hand, and you see if you can keep your hand closed. Obviously, you don't want to hurt them. You just feel how they push your hand open. It's very, very strong, very powerful organisms. And that's what they're designed to do, to move and to push. And you often see them when they fight over a ball like this, how they flick each other around. They flip each other with their frontal, the part of their face. And they're very, very powerful and strong. But he's just doesn't quite have the height. He's at full stretch underneath that ball. Full stretch, trying to push this ball out, and I'm going to sit here and see if he manages to do so.
WildEarth is launching a brand new bushwalk from Pride Lands. With a slew of potential dangers lurking, it's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that?
Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I tell you, seeing lions on foot, it definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
Converging game path will invariably lead you to a water source, but treat all water as suspect. One of my favorite ways of purifying water is to filter out the particulates. And by just filtering it through your sock, you can clear out most of those. You can put water into a snail shell and you can boil it over a fire or using a chemical like chlorine or colloidal silver.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for WildEarth. We love connecting you to the African bush and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on WildEarth.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Wonderful. So since we have left this bachelor group of the Impalas, now we got a car over there. You can see through grasses, looks like. And we will just actually get called out that she's close to the road here. Trimble Am, just south of the gate. Actually, it's not far from where we just left there the other day, coming out of that tree. So we are a few vehicles in this sighting. So you may experience the talking on the background. She's busy looking around there. I'm not sure if she's gonna move around while we're here. Lately, and you said this isn't a crazy camouflage. Indeed it is. Of course, maybe this is how we miss them as we drive along the road, because that camouflage, it's impossible for eyes to pick it up there. If you don't know she's there, then you wouldn't know or find her. So yawning, it's a result that maybe she wanna be active. We're just gonna seek because we're here. And we're not going anywhere now. Here she's up. And she's just so beautiful coming towards us. Just gonna see where she wanna decide to go, or she will go into Zimbabwe across this boundary line. Which indeed looks like it. She's gonna cross. I'm gonna stick with her. So we're going to try keep up with Kat. Kara, then I'm going to be sending you across to Lauren to give everybody an update.
Oh, I'm not sure I have an update for you, everyone. But I figured let's try and do that riddle. I tried to do it the other day and, well, the gremlins attacked me full force. So let's go through it now. It will be the same one as from the other night, everyone. So you will have heard the first part of it. But there's many, many clues, so we'll do one part of it now, and then we will do a little sort of short piece to finish it up. So the reason I'm doing these is to try and connect the dots to organisms and what sort of group they belong to, what phylum they belong to, what order they belong to, what class. And this gives you a really good idea of how animals are related and why are they related. So, are you ready? Who am I? The phylum I belong to means I am coated in protective armor. But to be honest, I know I am terrifying to some. I am the last thing you want to see at night. But don't judge a book by its cover. I am harmless to humans. My name is very confusing, and some people don't know if I sting or if I bite. I am carnivorous, and I love to eat insects, but I myself am not an insect. So I'll leave that sitting with you all for now. I'm sure you can work out the phylum at least from this. And then a little bit later, I'll give you some more clues. And let's see if we can get it right today. I'm very much looking forward to seeing who gets it correct. Now, unfortunately, I have failed dismally trying to find anything on this damn game. The hippos will be in there somewhere. But it's definitely not the warmest of mornings, which is probably why they're underwater. And that's probably why we can't see them. So your body actually loses heat through different ways. Evaporation, evaporative cooling. It actually loses heat just in the air through air conduction, believe it or not, but it will lose heat far quicker underwater than it does in the air. Now this is humans I'm referring to, but it will sort of be the same for hippos. They will lose a lot of heat when they're underwater. And therefore, the hippos will continually have to move. They're mammals after all, and although they spend most of their time in the water,
And sometimes when it's really windy on the surface, it may actually be warmer in the water, but it will be losing heat. And any body of water will have a sort of specific temperature. And therefore you will immediately start to lose heat. So that's why you will see hippos constantly moving in the water. So although they're mammals and they're endothermic, maintaining their own body temperature, by moving, they're obviously generating heat by using those muscles. I don't know why I haven't found one yet, because they should be moving. Of course they'll warm up from the sun naturally, but their bodies will be losing heat to the water, 100%, any mammal will. Okay, I'll sit tight to give you the rest of the clues, and for now, we're going to send you across to Steve.
Well, everybody, the impossible task was achieved. This very powerful, strong dung beetle, as his bride-to-be clings on to the other side, not helping at all. It's a magnificent ball that he's created there. For those of you who are new to the world of dung beetles will make these balls. Some of them are food balls and some are brood balls. And they'll bury them all in a very similar place. The male and female will mate certain times, and she will actually deposit an egg inside that ball. That ball will, obviously that egg will hatch into a larvae, like a grub, and that grub will eat itself fat inside that dung ball, all the way to the point where it eventually will go into a cocoon and metamorphosize out as a fully grown dung beetle. So it's full metamorphosis, egg, larvae, pupa, and adult again. So the scarab beetle, highly revered by the ancient Egyptians for the fact that, I have no doubt, due to the fact that there's huge amounts of organic material that was deposited. So ecologically, the ecological services and importance they provide is so necessary. By burying the dung, they also eliminate the amount of flies that can grow and live in the area. But the scarab beetle, if you broke open this dung ball when they were in the moment of the cocoon, it actually looks like a mummified individual in a sarcophagus. So it's possible that they might have even taken that metamorphosis that the dung beetle goes through, because you can imagine before the ancient Egyptians had their rituals and their rites, they probably would have been quite into nature, and they would have seen some very special things that they would have probably tried to copy in a way, I suppose, not knowing that as an expert. But if you break open this in the state of pupation, it looks like sort of an individual sitting there in a cocoon, in a sarcophagus. So it's possible that they kind of thought quite heavily about it. And the scarab beetle, Scarabaeus, features very prominently in hieroglyphics. Very, very cool. Muscle man, you'd think that they do prey on them, but you don't generally see too many birds feeding on dung beetles. We had a European roller the other day. It's the brew shouts in the background. European roller eating what looked like a dung beetle, but it might also be a tiger beetle or ground beetle. There's enormous amounts of chitin, sort of exoskeleton there. But most definitely the grubs and the larvae of many beetles are eaten by many birds. Inside that dung pile, birds actually scratch open to feed on larvae and on insects themselves. But there are so many of these guys around, and they don't seem to get eaten as much. If they did, there probably wouldn't be as many around. But definitely when they're in the larvae grub stage, very, very tasty. Not that I've eaten one specifically, but honey badgers seek them out. They listen for that scratching noise that the larvae would be making inside of that dung, and they break it open to find an enormous grub inside there, which they will then eat. So grubs are a very important source of food. Some of them can be poisonous depending on the species, but a very, very important source of food. And what I found so interesting is that the dung beetle parents here, after doing what they do, they will die. They won't be here next season. They're not going to die immediately now. They're going to live out this season and then they'll die by next season. But that dung beetle inside that gets laid, only one egg, or one egg will eventually be hatched, and only one larvae grow to adulthood. And it goes from egg to larvae to pupa and fully grown dung beetle inside that ball. So secure from the elements, secure from outside, only sort of under threat from certain organisms such as honey badgers that can dig them out of the ground to feed on them. So kindergarten, primary school. Well, Tsembisa, have a look there. She's just gone underneath. If anything, she's influencing his ability to roll it, so she doesn't seem to get squashed. But did you notice how he did that little turn, that little spin on top? They've recorded that dung beetles actually navigate using the sun, the moon, and generally light. So as soon as something happens to sort of change the shape or the angle, I'm just going to change the shape of his ball movement for a second. Just a second, and then he's going to reacquire himself as soon as it has to move. And watch how after he's changed angle, either he'll keep going in the exact same line because he knows. Okay, there it's going to change. No, he's still moving. We'll see. As soon as it changes angle, he walks up onto top of the dung ball, does a 360-degree turn, and picks up on some form of sort of light source. There was a gentleman who did some studies of them in what do you call those? Watch out, you've got some Asperle ants about to sting you. Some hissing ants coming out of the ground here. What are they called, those places you look at the stars inside? Planetarium. Thank you. I know a gentleman who did. Here we go. There he's going to navigate. Where is the sun? There's the sun. And he did a test with him in the planetarium where he kept moving, because in the planetarium you can alter where the sun is and where the moon is and all that. And he did a test and he kept moving the angle of certain planets and of certain stars, and the dung beetle followed his movements. So I find that very interesting, that they even navigate by the stars. The sun is a very obvious one, and you can actually mimic that by using a mirror or a torch, and they will actually follow the angle that you're putting down. So if I had a torch here and I kept moving in an angle each time he looked, he would actually go in circles. So I find that fascinating. But as you can see, Tsembisa, the female goes underneath every now and again, but all she's really doing is knocking him off course, and then he has to reestablish. But it seems to work quite well, don't you think? She holds on tightly. She has a little nibble at food, packs it down every now and again, tries to maybe help the streamlined process. And eventually, when they've gotten to wherever it is that they have decided to bury their dung, you'll see him start to push his face into the ground and start to dig. And they'll often have 3, 4, 5 different balls in that hole. Okay, very good. Well, we're going to roll on out here, and we're going to send you back over to Kyle.
He's gonna roll out of here. Nice one. A lovely herd of eland that we have here. Very nice to see larger herds like this. They do form what we refer to as gregarious herds. This is herds of mixed individuals. So depending on the season and availability of food, these herds would also fluctuate in numbers as well. But you would find in a typical herd consisting of one mature bull and then 8 to about 12 cows. So that'll be the females. And then their youngs ranging from obviously very young to about 2.5, 3 years of age. And you can see their attention is directly this way. This is by far one of the most skittish animals we have on Tswalu. We've got herds out in the west that are numbering nearly 200 plus. And boy, they hear you or they see you, they are in the opposite direction, gone. So we're quite a way away from them. We're a good 300, 400 meters away from them, and they are focusing on us, just locked onto us, seeing what we are about to do. Lovely to see such big herds. Well, bigger herds like this. Very, very big animals, and obviously from their sheer size, they're not very quick in comparison to a springbok that can clock 80 odd kilometers. These guys are fairly slow runners because of their sheer bulk that they carry. They'd only run to about top speed of about 20 odd kilometers. But obviously that'll only be used when they're fleeing a predator. Right now they're just moving slowly, meandering through this beautiful vegetation, browsing and grazing as they go along. Obviously keeping a watchful eye out for predators. See, those are all females that we have in frame there. So male and female of the species will have horns, because typically you'd find eland in open ear. They'd be found in open areas, so both male and females will possess horns. Whoa, there's a male. We can see that. And that female saying, "No ways, China bean." It's obviously not in the correct state to mate. So eland are referred to as the largest antelope in Africa. This is the common eland, which would have the Lord Derby eland, which would be the largest. I mean, they can be weighing between 800 and nearly 1,000 kilograms. And then there was a question, I didn't catch on who it was. Is the roan second? The roan, you would have the eland, and then your buffalo would be second in line there. Buffalo weighing at about between 700 and 800 kilograms. And then you would have your roan. Your roan is also a fairly hefty animal. And that was the question, is the roan second to the eland in terms of weight? Fairly large animal. They don't look like they weigh a lot, roan, and that's because of their very slender appearance, but they do have a lot of weight behind them. You can see the heat wave starting to push up from the ground. Obviously it's getting really hot now, and you can see that in picture. You can see a few eland there taking shade. There's a bull just right of that tree. You can see his very, very strong posture. He's got a hairy belly button, and also his horns are very thick in comparison to a female, which would be fairly thin and long. And having horns out here in these open, sparsely set areas is very important, because you don't have a lot of places to hide out here. Alright, but we're going to enjoy these lovely animals, but let's send you over to Lauren, who's got some clues to a riddle.
Okay, everyone, are you ready for the remaining clues? Or who am I? Okay, I am found in tropical and subtropical areas, excluding Europe and Australia. And only one species is known from Africa. The most confusing thing about me is my legs. Do I have 6 or 8 or 10? I am named after a special tool an equestrian would use to urge the horses on. Okay, everyone, who am I? I'm very much looking forward to hearing who gets this right. It was the same one from the other day, but of course, well, the antenna broke. Nothing to do with me or my driving, or Cara. The antenna just broke, you know, as they do. There's something really, really relaxing about just watching the water flow over the dam. You can see how much sort of movement wind is generating. You have to remember this is a stagnant body of water. It's not flowing. There's not an inflow and an outflow. It's stagnant. The movement that we're looking at on the surface here is all due to the wind movement. I'm sure FC are busy looking for all the answers here. Okay, we will come back to the answers in the next segment. I'm still just trying to look for life around the dam. Not even my usual resident grey heron is present. It would be lovely to look on the dam wall and actually see a cat crossing by, but sadly I haven't had that luck yet. The predators tend to avoid big bodies of water in summer because there's water available everywhere. Okay, I will reveal the answer very, very soon. And as I look around Gowrie Dam, we're going to send you across to Andrew.
Thanks, Lauren. So, we lost the young leopard. Now we've got a hyena over here, but this is way long ago, just after we lost that leopard, was actually pushed by a bull elephant into a thick, wet area where she hasn't coming out to the end of the road. So now we're hoping maybe hyena would know exactly where she is, because they always follow around the cats, behind cats. Wherever she is, if she's seen a hyena, she will go flat, because leopards don't want to be disturbed by hyena. Hyena are a lot stronger. Probably this hyena was actually behind that cat for all time. Off it goes. So I'm going to try one of the pen there, look. If maybe she's in there drinking. Josh, so you're asking if the leopard are usually by themselves. Yes, they are very solitary animal. So she's already solitary, that age. And there's that separation from their parents start from age 2 years or older there. And they're all just gonna move away from their mother, start their own new life. You see them in group, but This is probably male and a female business going, or mother taking care of their youngest, but always alone. So I'm asking, why is only one hyena following that leopard? So during the hunt, hyena, they all spread around so much. So we ever come across very interesting things in terms of where they follow behind the weakest cat, which the leopard is one of the weakest cats to a hyena. And that hyena would spend time in it. So he wouldn't, or she wouldn't love to be in so much of a company, because any time that leopard make a kill, it will be so small kill sometimes. For that hyena able to feed on its own, if we're able to steal. And that's why it's alone behind that cat. But sometimes it happens that all three follow leopards. This has happened when they're all hunt in the same area where it's a leopard in that area. So I'm going to carry on searching around here. I'm going to be sending you across to Lauren to finish off her rodo.
Okay, you are back with the jam cam feed, and we're here with the answers. So Indigo Girl, Kim Twister, Anna Marie Sutton and Janet Long, you said scorpion. Now close, but not quite. I see where you're going with that. But congratulations to Kay, Pinky and Karen. You all got it right. It is a whip scorpion spider. So it's not actually a scorpion, closely related to the scorpions, of course, because they're both arachnids. They both have 8 legs, but the most confusing thing about a whip scorpion spiders is they also have 2 very elongated pincers. So it makes them look like they have 10, but in fact, they're arachnids, so they have 8. They don't bite. And the species that I'm referring to here in South Africa, they don't even chew. They actually skewer their victims with their pincers. And then they use their mandibles, which is the specialized mouth parts of insects, to grind and then liquefy their prey before swallowing them. And it's not entirely dissimilar to chewing, but it's not really chewing. It's not the same thing. And they are completely harmless to humans. I'm not going to lie to you all. They're absolutely terrifying. I had a nest of them living above me when I was in the Amazon rainforest. That was joyous. It was so wonderful to wake up with a tarantula on your mosquito net. But they are actually incredible. When you look at them, you look at their biology, and they really cannot harm humans in any way, shape, or form. But they're huge. Too many legs, too many things going on, and of course people get confused by the name whip scorpion spider. It definitely is a spider, but of course they're named after the scorpion. So well done, everybody. That was our little riddle of today. Of course, from the phylum Arthropoda.
insects and arachnids, which sometimes get lumped together and they just say insects, but it's not really technically correct. Insects and arachnids are separate, but they do belong to the phylum Arthropoda. So they've all got that hard sort of exoskeleton as a protective armor on the outside. And their innards are all sort of swooshing about. They've got no skeleton to hold it all on the inside. So it's very much swooshy and swashy and liquid-ish inside an insect's body. They don't have a blood system like ours either. Now, unfortunately, my search on a dam cam has not been fruitful, everybody, but at least you can see how lush and full Gowrie Dam really is. And I will show you something. I'm going to speedy zoom round. So if you just look at... I'm probably not going to be able to find it now. So there we go. We'll look at the view. Victor, you're asking how can you tell if a scorpion is venomous? When you look at scorpions, there's two different types of scorpions, basically, and some will have much larger tails and very, very small pincers, and some will be the complete opposite. So they'll have very, very large pincers and a really, really small tail, and it's completely undeniable that all scorpions are venomous. They're all venomous. Most of them possess a little sting. So they don't bite, they sting. It's incorrect to say I was bitten by a scorpion. You were stung by a scorpion. And it depends on the species as to what level or sort of how venomous it will be. So some are quite harmless. Painful, yes, but to humans generally quite harmless. It's normally a neurotoxin as well that can come out of a scorpion, which is of course extremely dangerous. And it depends on what scorpion you're really looking at. So when you want to potentially identify a really, really dangerous one, you're looking overall for a much thicker tail, because that's the powerful weapon, and smaller pincers. Those are the ones that, ouchie, I need to keep away from you. So thank you everyone for all your answers. That is the dam cam saying goodbye for now, and we shall see you this afternoon.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm here in Northern California.
This is an Anna's hummingbird. We love seeing him because he brings a little magic and energy to our cold, wintry backyard.
In the winter, they politely visit one at a time, but in the summer, they gorge themselves in groups to prepare for their long migration south. As the hummingbirds fly south, over 1 million of these Canadian geese travel the Pacific Flyway from the Arctic to spend the winter with us. They like wetlands and we're in a drought, but they seem pretty happy on the dry bank of Folsom Lake here. This has been a tough year everywhere, but one good thing was we found WildEarth, who encouraged us to relieve our stress through nature.
There's a saying that
a distraction is momentary, an escape helps you heal.
I got into wildlife filmmaking because of a passion for nature and a notion that I could make a difference. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun. A couple of times per week we receive some very heartfelt messages from viewers telling us about how WildEarth has made a difference in their life, whether it's helped them through a difficult period or simply helped them to reconnect with nature. I think that's why we do what we do.
I'm Nikki here at andBeyond in Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the WildEarth website, head across to the live safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next WildEarth drive.
Now I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go. How cool is this?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Great, so we are now stopping here in this, looking at this beautiful dry tree. On top of it, it's a greater blue-eared starling. So we have searched around there, and the guys that have responded to that area also searching around will give us an update if that leopard is available again. We're also still not far away, but we want to look if we find anything on our way out. But wherever she is, she'll be probably maybe lying down or moving where the grass is greater, where it's cloudy a little bit, allows cats to be able to continue their movement. Now there's a virtual starling, so it's a mix of a starling and this arriving in this tree. So a lot of birds giving up calls around, and we know we have left or lost a leopard not long ago. So it's always important to stay put and maybe take time, listen to sound, and hopefully they've seen something. So all virtual starling calling about. But it's also one of the fruiting season for one of these Majiguara trees. Maybe that's why they're attracted in this area, flying around quite a lot. So everybody, we're coming in the end of the show of this morning. So we're all hoping for you all to come and join us this afternoon to start how we're going to begin trekking around for that curry again. So until we meet again this afternoon, 15:30 Central African time, goodbye.